Hello, and today we are looking at unit number 7, and we are going to focus on probability. Okay, I know that you have dealt with probability in the previous grades. I think it starts as low as probability. I think from grade 4, if I'm not mistaken, and up you start doing probability. It might be even on grades lower than grade 4, but you have previously dealt with probability. Okay, so let us start. At the end of this unit, you must be able to use probability scale. Okay, there is a probability scale, so you must be able to use probability scale. And then you must be able to write the probability outcomes of various experiments as a fraction and as a percentage. So probability, we're going to write it or express it as a fraction or a percentage. Okay. And then you must be able to determine the predictions and the possible outcomes. And you must be able to draw and interpret the tree diagrams and two-way tables. Okay, so this is what we are going to cover under unit number 7, and we start with lesson number 27. Okay, the expression of probability. Before we just go and learn how to calculate probability, we need to know how do we express probability. Few things in life can be determined with certainty. We know that definitely for sure they will happen. Okay, and certainty, it means you are sure that something will happen, but it's only few things that we are definitely sure or we are certain that will happen. We generally make predictions and say things such as, I am sure this will never happen. She only has a slim chance of winning a competition, or it will definitely rain next week. Each of these statements is a prediction of something that may happen in the future. We talk about the probability or chance that something will happen. This cannot be predicted with certainty. Okay, so probabilities can be written as fractions, decimals, or percentage. We can write a probability in 3 different ways: fractions, decimals, or percentages. Okay, so now let us look at the expression of probability. Probability of event number A happening. Okay, event number A, it can be any event that you are testing or you are predicting. Okay, if you are predicting the rain, this will be probability of rain on Wednesday, for example. So probability of event A happening is equal to the number of favorable outcomes. Okay, which ones can be positive outcomes, and the total divide by the total possible outcomes. Okay, so this is how we express probability, or this is the formula or the equation for probability. Probability of a event A happening, it's the number of favorable outcomes divided by the total possible outcomes. This is the notation of probability, where A refers to an event. Okay, so in some textbooks they use PE, okay, probability of the event happening, but in this textbook they used A, which refers to the event. So for example, we will write that a coin has been tossed in the air and will land on the heads. So this is the probability of heads, because we want the coin to land on the heads. Okay, so with one coin, how many heads can you have? It's 1. So which means the number of favorable outcomes in one coin, it's only 1 head. Okay, divide by what are the total possible outcomes you can get in a coin. It's a head and a tail, so which means it's 2. Okay, so that is why the probability of heads when tossing a coin is 1/2, and we have written it as a fraction, and we can convert that to a percentage. We can even write this as a decimal. It will be 0.5. Now we need to know important terms under probability. Remember, you are asked on test and exam the theory, so you would need to be able to define certain terms. Okay, and probability is one of them. Okay, so let's look at probability. Probability is the chance or possibility that something will happen. What is an event? An event is a collection of one or more outcomes of an experiment. Okay, and what is an outcome? An outcome is the result of the experiment. Okay, so please know these definitions, study them, and know them what each term means. Now let's look at the probability scale. Remember, on the objectives of the lesson, we said that we need, after this lesson, we need to be able to use the probability scale. Okay, here's another definition. A probability scale is used to measure the outcome of an event. The probability scale is only between 0 and 1. Any event could be placed somewhere on the scale. So probability scale starts from 0 and ends at 1. Okay, it starts at 0, it ends at 1. Okay, and we can write the scale in different ways, as decimals, as fractions, and as percentages. Okay, so if it's percentages, it will start from 0% to 100%. Okay, so now if the probability that you got in a decimal way is 0, it means that event is impossible. It will never happen. Okay, and then if the probability that you get is 0.25 or somewhere around 0.25, it means that the probability is improbable. Okay, it might happen, it might not happen. And if the probability is 0.5, it means normally in the common language we say it's 50-50. It can happen, it cannot happen. Okay, and then if it's 0.75, it means there are more chances that it will happen. And if your probability is 1, it's 100% guaranteed that it will happen. We look at fractions. If a fraction is 0, it's impossible. If fraction is a quarter, 1/4, it means high chances that it will not happen. Okay, and then if it's 1/2, 50-50 chances, okay, that it will happen. And then 3/4, it means that it is more or less probable that the event will happen. And 1, it means that it is 100% that it will happen. We look at percentages. 0, impossible, and 25, it means it might not happen, high chances, improbable. And then 50%, 50-50, it can happen, it may not happen. And probable, it means there are more chances that it will happen at 75%. And 100% means that it will definitely happen. So if you are asked in words to just say what is the probability that something will happen, first you need to calculate your probability. Okay, and then you get your answer, either it's in decimal, fraction, or percentages. Then if you get your answer, you put it on the probability scale, you will know that where does it fall. Okay, so we only have 5 possible answers: impossible, improbable, uncertain, probable, and certain. Please use them in the exam if you are asked. Okay, so number one, we have examples. What is the probability that the next baby to be born will be a girl? Okay, remember we said a probability is a number of favorable outcomes divided by total outcomes. So for a girl, what is the possibility that a baby will be a girl? So a baby can only be a girl or boy. So for girl is 1, and a total outcomes it's 2, because it can be a boy or a girl. Then we write 1 over 2. Okay, I don't know if I need to explain this further, but it's 1 over 2. And where does that put us? It put us here on the probability scale. So we are uncertain that the next baby to be born will be a boy or a girl. You see, 50% chance. Now let's go to the next example. A triangle has got 3 sides and 3 angles. What is the probability for that? We know that a triangle has got 3 sides, and the triangle has got 3 sides and 3 angles. So the favorable outcomes, 3 sides and 3 angles, which gives us 6. And the possible outcomes is 3 sides and 3 angles. Okay, so our answer will be 1. Okay, so which means it's 1 or 100% chance. Okay, if we convert that to a percentage. And then a square has 5 angles. Okay, is it possible for a square to have 5 angles? Favorable outcomes? No, 0. And total outcomes divide by, we can only have 4 angles in a square. Okay, so the 0 over 4 gives us 0. So it's impossible that a square can have 5 angles. Okay, so you can do various examples to determine probabilities. Let's look at flipping a coin. For example, a coin has got 2 sides, a head and a tail. Okay, in other words, there are 2 possible outcomes when you flip a coin. It can either land on heads or tails. Okay, so now there it is, we have. So if you flip a coin twice in a row, you will get the following results. So now remember, flipping once, we only have either head or tails. So if you flip twice, you can have heads or heads, you can have heads or tails, or you can have tails and heads and tails and tails. This is very important. Flipping twice or doing an experiment twice, you need to know this. Okay, you will understand it better when we get to tree diagrams. Okay, so now, therefore, if you flip a coin, there are 4 possible outcomes. Okay, so if you flip a coin twice, there are 4 possible outcomes. But if you flip a coin only once, there are 2 possible outcomes. It's either a head or a tail. So now, if we have to get a probability of a coin landing on head first, it can be written as follows. So heads first, head first. You see that? So it's 2 favorable outcomes. So if for probability of the coin landing on heads first is 2, because we have here. Okay, so it's 2, and the total outcomes is 4, and that probability is 1 over 2, which means it is, according to the probability scale, it's uncertain, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go to our probability scale. So 1 over 2 means uncertain. Yes, 1 over 2 uncertain. Okay, so you see how you define probability. I will explain this nicely when we get to tree diagrams so that you will see it. And now we want the probability of the coin landing on heads in any order. Okay, so we have heads here, we have heads here, and we have heads here. You see, so it can land in heads in any order. So it's 3/4. So let's look at our example, 3/4, which is most probable. Okay, so and let's look at the another experiment of throwing a dice. There are 6 possible outcomes when throwing a dice with 6 faces or sides. It can land on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Okay, so now let's look. So probability of getting a 1, if you only throw one die, in this case, it's only 1/6, and you can convert that into a percentage. And we get 16.7%. So let us go back. I want us to see where 16.7 fall. So this is 25. So 16.7, it's here. So it is highly improbable, okay, that a dice land on 1. You see, because 16.7%, it is here, somewhere here. So it's improbable that the die will land on 1. So let's go back to our example for a die. Okay, so now the probability that the die land on even number. In a die, how many even number we have? We have 2, 4, and 6. Okay, so it's 3 favorable outcomes, but the total outcomes is 6. So now our probability is going to be 3/6. If you simplify that, it's 1/2, and it's 50%. So the probability is uncertain. So the probability of landing on 7, does a die have 7? No. So the favorable outcome for 7 is 0. Divide by the total outcomes, it's 6. Okay, so we'll have 0/6, and our answer will be 0. So the chances of this happen, it will be impossible. You see how you also use the probability scale and the weighting that are there. Okay, so let's look at a deck of playing cards now. So a deck of playing cards, we have 52 cards, and we exclude jokers. Please know, when they just tell you about a deck of playing cards, you must know it has got 52 cards. Okay, so there are 2 types of red cards, which are, let me zoom this out. Can we all see? Yes, I think we can all see. Yes. So a deck of cards has got 52 cards. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's Jack, it's Queen, and it's a King. So it's 13, am I right? So 13 times 4 gives us 52. There are 2 types of red cards. The hearts, these are the hearts, and we have the diamonds, these are the diamonds. And there are 2 types of black cards. It's the clubs, these are the clubs, and the spades. Okay, so now you know what is a deck of cards. So now, what is the probability of drawing the Queen of Hearts from a deck? How many Queen of Cards do we have? 1. That is the favorable outcome. And then what is the total number of cards or possible outcome? It's 52. So the probability of drawing a Queen of Hearts, it's so small. Okay, it's so improbable. Okay, almost impossible that we draw a Queen of Hearts. What is the probability of drawing a Jack? It does not matter what color Jack. So how many Jacks do we have? 4. Okay, so it means it will be 4/52. Let's look. 4/52 gives us 1/13, and it gives us 7.7. It's still improbable. You see that? And let's look at the next question. What is the probability of drawing a card with hearts or clubs? Okay, So heart or clubs. So we have 13 hearts, we have 13 clubs. So it's going to be 26, okay? And the total number of cards is 52. So we're going to have 26 over 52. And we have 1 over 2, 50% chance. So it's uncertain. So let's look at the spinner. This spinner has eight different outcomes. So let's look at the spinner. 8 different outcomes. 1 to number 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So what is the probability of the needle stopping on number 2? Okay, how many 2's do we have? 1 over, what are the total outcomes? 8. So it's 12.5. It is improbable. Okay, anything less than 25 is improbable. Now you need to do the activity. Now with what we have learned from the beginning of our lesson, you need to do activity number 28. Okay, so activity number 28 all the way from number 1 to number 6. Okay, thank you.